Hey, wellness friends, I have a question for you. Have you ever grew up in a household where you heard the phrase of children should be seen and not heard, or children need to stay in the child's place? This is adult business, or this is grown folks' business, right? So if you've heard of that before, you know somebody heard of those phrases before. I want you to listen up for a quick minute, right? So sometimes when we hear those phrases and it's kind of like a record and it's something that's been played over and over again, sometimes that can lead us to adopt belief systems about ourselves and how we show up in the world, how we view the world, right? And so sometimes when we're doing that, we become adults who believe the same thing. And so that may not be the best thing or the best approach to view ourselves or view the world, because a couple of things can happen from that. For one, it could be outdated because clearly we're adults, right? We're not children. But for two, sometimes that can lead into how we show up in relationships. And one of the ways that I see it show up often is lacking the ability for healthy self-expression. And so what I mean by that is sometimes if we're still operating in that belief system of children should be seen and not heard, sometimes we have difficulties with advocating for ourselves or standing up for ourselves if we've been disrespected. Sometimes we could have a tendency to people please and put other people's needs before ours excessively. Another way that can show up is not having healthy boundaries. So our boundaries are very loose. We tend to not know how to use no in a healthy way because we know no is a complete sentence, right? And so another way where we could still be operating in that outdated belief system is we may find it difficult to have successful relationships because we may feel like our voice doesn't matter. We may feel like we can't have those challenging conversations because if I say anything anyway, it isn't going to matter because my opinion isn't valid. And so you see how sometimes operating in an outdated belief system, especially as it relates to relationships, doesn't serve. It doesn't help us to show up in our authenticity, and it definitely doesn't help us to be who God has created us to be. And so I just want you to kind of think about that, do some self-assessment, just look around, look within yourself and say, hey, am I still operating in a belief system that's outdated for me? And if so, am I ready to do the change? Am I ready to operate in a new belief system that can work well for me, that can help me to be who God has created me to be? Because here's the thing, God believes, right? Well, I guess I'll end it like this. What does God believe about you? But I'm pretty sure God does not believe that you should just be seen and not heard. Because if that was the case, we will not be able to do the things that God has called us to do, because doing takes action, right? Not being silent on the gifts that God has given you, not being timid about the gifts that God has given you, because in 2 Timothy 1-7, God says, 2 Timothy 1-7, God says he has not given us a spirit of fear nor timidity, but of power, love, and a sound mind. So if we're still operating in an old belief system of children should be seen and not heard, we really got to say, okay, am I operating from a space of fear, or am I operating in a space from 2 Timothy 1:7? So I hope and I pray that this little tidbit was helpful, and it can kind of start you on your journey to be who God has created you to be and to show up in the world as he wants you to. Take care.